Have you ever tried to convince someone without good arguments? Difficult. Therefore, every negotiation specialist would give you the good advice of understanding the resonating arguments leading to the expected goal, the driving reasons. In this episode, you will get ideas how to manage the decreasing willingness to comply within your organization, and maybe also detect your own lacking discipline and how to cope with it. Good to have you here.
Corporate integrity, fraud, non-compliance, and cybersecurity. Would you like to understand the root causes, detect threats, and take measurements to protect the most precious assets? As a leader, you need to be prepared and stay actionable in the event of an incident. Sonja Stirnimann talks in her podcast, The Human Factor. Corporate integrity matters. To leaders and entrepreneurs who want to have impact, foster corporate integrity, and act as role models. As an international expert for corporate governance and integrity, entrepreneur, and independent board member, she knows the challenges. Let her inspire you.
Welcome back to this new episode of the podcast, The Human Factor, Corporate Integrity Matters. You might be an integrity enthusiast, a business leader, a corporate integrity counsel, or on your way there. I'm your mentor when it comes to corporate integrity with impact, founder of Corporate Integrity Concepts and the Corporate Integrity Academy, with the vision to protect and secure assets, reputation, and actionability, yours and the one of your organization. Why? Because corporate integrity matters. Let us make the world a place of corporate integrity and ethical leadership. And now, let's dive into the secrets of how we can support our teams and peers to comply. Depending on what area we are focusing on, being compliant can be crucial for our organization and especially also for ourselves. Therefore, I'm convinced that being aware of a so-called compliance fatigue is crucial and needs to be identified at a very early stage. Because having it once in your organization or in our organization, the multiplication is so fast that it takes even more effort to bring it back into the right direction. What I see in society and especially also in the corporate world is that the good arguments of complying are often either missing or not communicated. If it is the latter, there is room for improvement by working on the communication process. If the arguments are missing, we have another significant issue putting the entire organization at risk. Just a quick example directly out of the field and rather a leadership topic. When someone, no matter what hierarchy level the person is at, threatening me or you completely against our values and rules, we have to react and act to comply with our own standards set. This also means to sanction the behavior the way which is appropriate. You, as a corporate integrity counsel and business leader, know what that means and also how important it is to support other peers on their path there. There is an observed fatigue of respectful behavior in teams. The code of conduct seems to be absent in times of crisis. As a business leader, it is our responsibility to take care on such non-compliant cultural behavior too. More of this highly important topic can be found in the Corporate Integrity Academy, where professional negotiation techniques are trained too. So now, the first question I would like to ask you to start with. Are you hitting the crisis fatigue? And just as a side note, if you have the possibility to write it down, it could help you to go to the next steps. If not, I also have it in the show notes. Yes, the term of crisis fatigue definitively exists and health specialists know about this symptom for decades. In the business world, it's quite new. The actual pandemic is not the first crisis impacting individuals and organizations, but the uniqueness is seen as it all affects us at the same time. And after more than a year, it is also not a short-term limitation of the lives of every individual and organization anymore. It is essential that we are aware of the symptoms and even more about the root causes. The crisis fatigue is a reaction and symptom that grows the longer the crisis lasts. And we all know, depending on the country and region we are, it lasts now for more than 15 months when this episode is recorded and published. When a person feels they have no control over the current situation or responsibilities, this can lead to the individual impression of or feeling that nothing they really do matters for good. We could all follow that these circumstances can seriously affect a person's mental and emotional health. In the current situation of the COVID-19 pandemic, this fatigue can manifest in carelessness by not following the instructions of social distancing, staying in their home, and or wearing the masks. And the longer we are in such extraordinary situations, the higher the risk of the crisis fatigue becomes. The second question I would like you to reflect on is, what does such a crisis fatigue mean for corporates and organizations? Have you ever thought about what crisis fatigue could mean in the corporate world? Not only on individual level, in your organization, or in the organization of your client, either as a board member, a CEO, or as an advisor. And the longer we are in the current crisis, the more frequent I take that topic onto my agenda when I discuss it with my peers or with my clients. Yes, we are all individuals acting and being responsible for organizations. And as a corporate integrity counsel and a business leader, we must take into consideration that a significant part of our crew is affected by the crisis fatigueness too. It is not only the crew of the other boat, it's also our crew in our boat. The topic becomes one of the C-level and often the boardroom too. And it has to be. What I still see is the risk of having too many rules to comply with which are not effectively implemented. Having said that, I focus on the implementation process starting at the very beginning. And now we are already heeding the third question, and in my opinion, the most important one. What are the rules for? You can also find another word for rule, like control, check, test, whatever it best fits for your role, position, responsibility level, and department or organization. I immediately hear all the voices telling me that these rules are implemented for the regulators, auditors, and whatever. But I think not. If that is the case, and the rules are hardly there to protect your employees, your business, your partners, your clients, and your community, there must be something wrong. The rules implemented should protect you and should be for the business. Compliance and even more integrity helps us to protect our most valuable assets. And if we do it properly and with the mindset of business-driven compliance, even better. I will not leave you out of this episode without a short guidance on how you could cope with the increasing crisis fatigue, but also with the compliance fatigue, which does not need to be rooted by a crisis. Sometimes there are specific processes facing this phenomenon too. And what is also important, the one on a behavioral level in teams, as mentioned at the very beginning of this episode. So just a short guidance on coping the crisis fatigue could be: communicate. Listen and talk to your team, family, and friends. Also now. Awareness. Increase your awareness and be aware of the causes for stress, for you, but also for your team members. Identify. Identify what you have under control and what not, and why not, and whether you would need to have it under control, or whether it's good if you don't have to. Keep your daily routines and work for you and for your team. Make sure that you also implement additional routines which help you. Stay in contact and be connected. I know it's also not that easy, but it helps. Make sure that you are able to recognize changes in behavior in your environment at work, within your team, families and friends. And speak up. Also speak about that topic, about the topic of crisis fatigue, to your supervisor, colleagues, peers, friend, and or family. And as a final tip, I would like to know from your side, which is your next rule you have to rethink to make sure that people understand the goal to avoid the fatigue. I'm curious to hear or read about it, and I'm looking forward to receiving your messages via one of the listed channels in my show notes. Fact is that the more and longer we must comply in a crisis, the more important it is the understanding of the why. Why we have to do so. And the reason behind the interest is the main driver for successful compliance. Therefore, our all goal should be to implement rules which are understood. And if not, it's our duty to make it happen. If we cannot do so on a societal level, then we should at least start in our families, organization, and wherever we have the power to positively impact it. Do you remember the 3 questions which also lead to the take-home assignment? So the first, are you hitting the crisis fatigue? What does such a crisis fatigue mean for corporates and organizations? What are the rules for? I'm pretty sure it would also be interesting for you to hear the answers of your peers and teams. Maybe your next virtual meeting starts with one of these questions. This was the episode number 7 of The Human Factor, Corporate Integrity Matters. Following the belief, corporate integrity secures and empowers individuals and organizations. Would you like to learn more, meet peers and getting qualified? So visit the website Corporate Integrity Concepts or Corporate Integrity Academy. Or do you think this podcast could be interesting for someone you know? Sharing is caring, and we are always happy to welcome your peers to our community. And if you like this episode, subscribe and don't miss any of the future ones. The show notes are, of course, enriched with relevant information, and your connection via any of the social media channels is highly appreciated and will be answered. Promised. And please do not forget, topics of your interest or interview partners are highly welcome. Just send me a note on any of the channels you know. That's it from my side. I thank you for listening. My name is Sonja Stirnimann and I'm your host. Stay curious, actionable, and a role model. Take care and goodbye.